Rain hammered the sidewalks of downtown Los Angeles as Ayla Bennett clutched her thin jacket, rushing toward the bus stop. Her diner wages barely covered groceries, but she refused to complain. Behind her, a man in a soaked hoodie stepped onto the bus, reached into his pockets, then froze. Empty. "No fare, no ride," the driver said coldly. The stranger turned to leave, but something in his quiet exhaustion struck her. "Here," Ayla said softly, tapping her card again. The man stiffened, staring at her with disbelief. "You don't have to—" "I know," she shrugged. "Just get home safe." He sat far behind her, watching her reflection as if she were something he couldn't understand. Because he wasn't just a stranger. He was Ji-woon Kang, one of LA's most feared Korean mafia bosses, hiding after escaping a failed ambush. No one had ever helped him without expecting something in return. Until her. Welcome to Korean Mafia Lovers. Hey there, please let us know where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing you these stories. The fluorescent lights of Mel's diner cast harsh shadows across Ayla Bennett's exhausted face as she wiped down the last table of her double shift. Her feet ached in her worn sneakers, and her lower back protested every movement. But she forced a smile for the late-night customers still nursing their coffee. "Table 6 needs their check," called Sandra, the night manager, her voice sharp with impatience. Ayla nodded, smoothing her apron and approaching the booth where 2 construction workers sat. Their conversation died as she approached, their eyes following her movements with the kind of attention that made her skin crawl. "Can I get you gentlemen anything else?" she asked politely, setting the check on the table. One of them, a burly man with grease-stained fingers, let his gaze linger on her curves. "How about your number, sweetheart?" Ayla's smile never wavered, though her stomach tightened. "I'm afraid that's not on the menu. Have a good evening." She turned to leave, but the man's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. "Come on, don't be like that. A pretty girl like you shouldn't be working in a dump like this." "Let go of me," Ayla said firmly, her voice steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. The man's grip tightened. "I'm just being friendly. She asked you to let go." The voice was low, controlled, and carried an edge that made everyone in the diner turn. A man stood near the entrance, water dripping from his dark hair onto the checkered floor. His hoodie was soaked through, clinging to a muscular frame, and his jeans were torn at the knee. But it was his eyes that made the construction worker immediately release Ayla's wrist, dark, intense, and completely unforgiving. "We don't want any trouble," the second construction worker mumbled, already reaching for his wallet. The stranger said nothing, just stood there with the stillness of a predator waiting to strike. The 2 men threw money on the table and hurried out, not looking back. Ayla rubbed her wrist, studying the man who had intervened. There was something about him that didn't fit, the way he carried himself despite his disheveled appearance, the expensive watch barely visible beneath his wet sleeve, the controlled violence that seemed to radiate from him even in stillness. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded once, then turned toward the door. "Wait," Ayla called out. "You're soaked. Let me get you some coffee on the house." The stranger paused, his hand on the door handle. When he turned back, his expression was unreadable. "You don't owe me anything." "I know, but it's raining and you helped me. The least I can do is offer you something warm." For a long moment, he just stared at her, as if trying to solve a puzzle. Finally, he walked to the counter and sat on one of the worn stools. Ayla poured him a cup of coffee, noting how his hands, elegant despite their obvious strength, wrapped around the mug like he was trying to absorb its warmth. Up close, she could see he was younger than she'd first thought, maybe early 30s, with sharp cheekbones and a jaw that looked like it had been carved from stone. "I'm Ayla," she offered. "Ji-woon," he replied after a moment's hesitation. "That's a beautiful name. Korean." He nodded, surprised by her easy acceptance. Most people struggled with his name or made assumptions about his background. "I had a Korean friend in high school," Ayla continued, refilling his cup. "She taught me that names have meanings. What does yours mean?" Ji-woon's fingers tightened around the mug. "Wisdom and kindness." Ayla smiled. "Your parents had high hopes for you." Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, or regret. "They did." The diner was nearly empty now, just an elderly man reading a newspaper in the corner booth and a trucker finishing his pie. Isla should have been cleaning, preparing to close, but something about this stranger made her want to linger. "You're not from around here," she observed. "What makes you say that?" "The way you carry yourself, like you're used to people moving out of your way." She tilted her head, studying him. "But you're running from something." Jawoon's eyes sharpened. "What makes you think that?" "The way you keep watching the door. The fact that you're sitting in a dive diner at midnight soaking wet, with no umbrella or jacket." Isla's voice was gentle, not accusatory. "Whatever it is,